Welcome to the Iron Self podcast, where we jump into health, fitness, mindset, and becoming the best version of yourself. Today with your hosts, Mike and Kayla Minion. Welcome back to the Iron Self podcast. On today's episode, we welcome Sam Becker. Sam is born and raised in Los Angeles, California. He is a mindset business coach and the creator of Entrepreneur With. After suffering through mindset issues of his own for 10 plus years, he finally decided to make the ultimate changes necessary to start and create the life that he always wanted. Today, he teaches the exact process that took him from anxious and feeling completely incapable to a confident entrepreneur ready to take on the challenges, big or small. You can find him at entrepreneurwith.com. Let's put a big welcome together for Sam Becker. So welcome back to the Iron Self podcast. Today we have Sam Becker joining us. We are super excited to pick his brain. We are talking about how to think and shifting our perspective. I know, Sam, you have so much knowledge in this realm, and I think that this is such a great topic to get people really thinking about what we want out of this year. I mean, I know that we're already a couple months into this year, but it's not too late to really start that journey into that personal growth, personal development, and becoming the best version of yourself.
Yeah, I think a big portion of this is like, it is early in the year, but still learning how to shift that perspective, how to really take a step back and take a broader look at our surroundings and how to optimize our lives through that. So super pumped to have you here today. And yeah.
Maybe you can enlighten us. What does it mean for how to think to you?
Great question. And first of all, I'm just excited to be here. And this is my favorite topic to talk about. So obviously this is what I do as a profession. So I'm excited to just really share my experiences and perspectives with you guys. So how to think. I think it really comes down to one word, and that's perspective, right? When you're really thinking about something, just for example, think about like a debate, right? It's a matter of like perspective and opinion and all that kind of stuff, right, too. But if you are trying to figure out what the other person is thinking, you have to almost take yourself out of the equation and start arguing with their side of things, to look at it from their side of things, like prove yourself wrong almost. Can you prove yourself wrong? That's kind of like a fun little way of putting it whenever I talk to like my clients about that. I'm like, well, here's a little bit of perspective. They're probably thinking this. It's really understanding a lot of people. I mean, this is for coaching. This is for any business kind of thing too. But how to think is really is being mindful with the way that you live, I would say.
Yeah, I love that.
I think that when we are more mindful of how we're living, we just become more aware of our surroundings and our impact on the world. And when we are having maybe negative thoughts, how that impacts our family, how that kind of, then once you're impacting your family, how do they take that and go with it? And really noticing that your behavior impacts much greater scale than what you actually think.
Yeah, and I know we had a talk recently about emotional intelligence, and a lot of that came back to being able to look at somebody else's point of view and really that perspective shift, right? Because when we're in those heightened emotional states, a lot of times we kind of get stuck in, living that emotion and becoming the emotion rather than being able to take a step back and have a broader look and be like, okay, well, they have their point of view, which in their minds is valid and true as well, but
Right.
that doesn't line up with the views that I'm having. So being able to take a step back from that and open up that perspective is, I think, a very important thing for being able to have those relationships, building relationships.
It's true. Yeah. And you actually nailed it like perfectly too, is relationships. Like if you really think about any type of relationship, what's the number one like fundamental thing that needs to be down? And that's communication, right? A strong level of communication. If you don't have that, things go crazy in the process of something like, honey, can you please take out the trash? Yes, I will. Okay, when? Like that strong communication, like you're expecting them to take the trash out now, and he's thinking, okay, I'll do that after dinner. When all the scraps are in the trash and it's the most appropriate time in his mind to do it. But in your mind, the trash stinks. I need to take it out now. There's communication there. If you don't have that strong communication, relationships are really difficult. That goes with any capacity that I've noticed, you know.
We actually noticed that a lot, just like observing our friends and their relationships with their spouses, or just people that we've known and what kind of relationships we might have with them and vice versa. And you really do notice that that communication comes in really big, and voicing your truth too and sharing how you're feeling. One of the biggest things is that we have a really hard time with those icky sticky feelings in the regards to like expressing your love for someone. It's one thing to tell someone you love them, even yourself, I love you, but to actually, openly, genuinely say, I truly appreciate you and you mean the absolute world to me. Most people don't voice that. And one
Right.
thing, like I noticed, I had a conversation with my grandmother yesterday on Skype, and I was overwhelmed with the feeling like she needs to know how much I appreciate her, how much I love her and adore her, and how important she is to me. And when I was like, okay, I'm gonna be super bold, and I told her, and that's in my family, that's not something we do. We don't, talk about our feelings.
Feelings don't happen.
Suck that down, right? But I did. I said to her, I love you. You're one of the most important people in my life. I need you to know how much you mean to me. And she was just taken aback and almost floored that she had that level of impact on me because I'd never shared that with her. But
Right.
when you're feeling that, sometimes it's really important to also go ahead and share that because you create this feel good feeling. Like she left that conversation and you could tell she was like, wow, I didn't realize that somebody loved me to that extent.
Well, and I think a lot of that
Sweet.
plays into that too is the fact that you are at a point in your life where you have that love for yourself, that internal beacon of love that you can actually shine out at the rest of the world too. Because previous years to this, maybe you wouldn't have expressed that as openly with somebody, that even somebody that's as close to you as your grandmother, because you didn't have that going on inside. Does that make
Well,
sense?
part of that comes from confidence, right? So looking
Right.
at it from a confidence perspective, I didn't feel confident within myself. So, oh my God, what if I share this information about how much I love this person and they reject me or they don't love me the same way back? But when we share love, it's not about looking for it to come back to you. And I think that that's often that misconception is that we're afraid of that rejection. But it's like, when I give my love, if somebody's like, it's very rare somebody's gonna go, oh, I don't love you, or just have
Shut up.
something negative to say.
Yeah.
So I think that that's where that perspective shift is. Like when I give love and I share that love, it creates more love. That person might not have said anything back to me, but I bet you that next person is going to impact the next person, and so on and so forth.
Right. It changes the dynamic of their day, right?
Yeah.
Because that just you did something to them. I'm like the worst at trying to like get these chemicals in line, but I think it's oxytocin that might be released when that happens, right?
Yes.
The feel good chemical. So it's the same thing as you guys when you're hugging someone, right? You're still releasing oxytocin. So when you are giving out those compliments, when you are sharing how you feel with someone in a positive way, of course, right? Then it releases that and it releases it for them because they're feeling good. Now you're feeling good. That you both might get emotional. You both might start crying, and those are all happy tears, right? Um, and it's just it, it's really crazy, especially now. Here's a little caveat to that, right? Is that the world is so strange right now with compliments. You can't exactly walk up to someone and say, "Hey, I love your eyes. Your eyes are beautiful." They're gonna think, "Oh, what a weirdo," But at the same time, they'll walk away, and that's it. Say nothing else. You walk away. It's fine. Uh, they're still gonna feel that when you walk away. You know what I mean? So it's like as long as it doesn't become a creepy conversation, then you're okay. But if someone like you share with a loved one, a loved friend, of course, different story. But um, it's amazing what that can do, for you. When you get that compliment, how do you feel inside, right? When you get a random compliment, when you get random feedback from your clients, how does that make you feel? Saying, "I'm in the best shape of my life. I have been able to wake up early again and have more energy." This is what you're doing for your community is changing their lives, and it starts with making that decision to make a change, right?
Mm.
So it's amazing what oxytocin and the feel good chemicals can do for you, for sure.
So one thing with the oxytocin that I love that you kind of touched on is that, you know, when we're giving those compliments, we're also receiving that oxytocin. So oxytocin is our hormone of connection. It's also our hormone of love and creates that feel good feeling. We mainly release it when we hug a person, when we're having sex, and when we have babies, because it creates that connection,
Bond, yeah.
that bond.
Yeah.
So your brain doesn't actually know the difference between you hugging someone else and you hugging yourself. When you create that hug, you still release that oxytocin. When you bring your hands to your heart center and create a little bit of pressure on there, you release oxytocin. And that's literally because your body feels like it's getting that hug.
Right.
So one of the biggest things when it comes to like how to think is, even if you're feeling lonely, if you give yourself a hug, you bring your hands to your heart and you focus on that heart space, you can still release that oxytocin and
Right.
create that self love without having to get it from somebody else.
Right.
And that's huge.
Yeah, totally. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say another way that I like to do that too is like that shift in perspective is if you're having a shit day, like if you're having one of those days where things just aren't lining up how you wanted them to, just to switch that perspective. I like to practice gratitude, like to bring some gratitude into my life, and audibly say a bunch of things that I'm grateful for, because then I start to realize that although the moment might not be going how I want it to be, overall, overarching, we live a pretty amazing life. We get to impact a lot of people. We get to meet some amazing people, and we get to do what we love doing. So, on the
Yeah.
grand scheme of things, there's a lot to be grateful for in most days.
Yeah. There's two things that I want to kind of touch on a little bit. And one is what you mentioned about the, self-love, like reminding yourself, like, hey, this is like we're safe, we're good. There's a lot of science behind that for sure. And I read this really great book. It's called do you guys know who Mel Robbins is?
Yep.
Yep.
Mel Robbins. Have you heard of the high five habit?
Yes, actually, I just listened to a podcast on that the other day.
Yeah, she's fantastic. And there's a lot of science that backs up that whole like connection with yourself, where you're high-fiving essentially yourself in the mirror. Yeah. There's a lot of like feel good chemicals that come out from doing that because you associate teamwork with that, right? You associate success and celebration and that kind of thing. So when you're celebrating you, there's a lot of gratitude that comes with that. Now, I have a weird thing with gratitude, right? I'm all for it 100%, but what I like to do is I start picturing my life without things, right? Instead of thinking how much this means to me, I think about it, what if I didn't have this? What would my life look like if I didn't have this? Because it's natural to, I think, take things for granted because we're not supposed to be focusing, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful for this mouse because it just makes my fingers so much. We don't do that, right? But if I didn't have this mouse, I start thinking about how much I'm grateful for it. You know what I mean? It's just another little exercise of being able to be mindful of the things that you do have and really cherish the things that you do, take care of the things that you do. Um, before you get mad and slam it on the computer because the internet's slow or something, So yeah, it's just one of my therapists actually taught me. This kind of goes in hand with like anxiety that I used to have, like just debilitating anxiety. It was to argue the opposite, right? I kind of mentioned the whole debate scenario, but the same thing with like gratitude. I started arguing the opposite of everything. So if I feel like if I don't believe in something, I have to think about, well, why? Why can't I? Why can't I? What's stopping me from believing in that? Is it because this, and this? I start making a list. That's why I have a whiteboard behind me. I do this with all the clients too. I just start listing out reasons why they feel like they can't. Right? How to think is all about really focusing on what's in your core, what's inside of you that's telling you, no, you're not capable. No, you can't do it. And list out all the things that you could possibly think of, for as long as it takes. Okay, this is everything. And you look at it and you think to yourself, okay, has anyone ever accomplished any one of these things? More often than not, you'll find that everyone's accomplished at least one or two of those things. So yeah, it's entirely capable. And then you walk away thinking, huh, okay, so I made that all up. I'm no different, right?
Yeah.
Instant gratitude by taking like 10 minutes, just write on the board and list out the things that you're scared of.
I love that. I love that because it's something that we talk about in a bit of a different context, but the same idea is like,
Yeah.
what's the story you're telling yourself and why is that story there? Does that
Mhm.
serve you anymore, right? Because at
Absolutely.
some point in your life, the stories that we're telling ourselves have served us at some point. They may have kept us safe, they may have helped us through an uncomfortable situation, whatever that might be. Those stories are there for a reason and they have served us at some point, but do they serve us currently where we're at? Right? And
Right.
really starting to be critical in that questioning of self where you're like, okay, that used to make sense, but does it still make sense for the life that I'm living right now? And
Right.
again, that perspective shift. And I want to say too, I love that your perspective shift where you're like, okay, instead of doing gratitude and what I'm grateful for, I'm going to start questioning what my life would look like without it. I love that perspective, that paradigm shift of living without compared to living with, right?
Yeah.
That blew me away. So that's a great point right there.
Thank you.
And yeah, really like diving into that story that we tell ourselves, I think is so powerful when we're looking for that change and why we want to change from where we were to where we are.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to take that minute, even if I'm not, funny enough, as much as I love the mindset and minute and how to think stuff, I'm not really big on the meditation stuff. I love to be present, but not necessarily in your traditional, let's throw on some music, close your eyes and think about breath kind of meditation. I think meditation can look in different capacities, but that's kind of like my form of meditation is being able to really just sit with myself and really dissect what my thoughts are, what I'm doing, you know.
Mm.
It's helped me so much through my anxiety, tremendously. I'm able to, you know, go on. I used to be terrified of going on airplanes. And in fact, I'm going to Hawaii next week. So not at all terrified. I'm more excited than anything else. But you know, it's just crazy what your mind can make up and how much power you have if you really just understand the way that you're thinking and why you're thinking it. You know, it's been a game changer for me.
Well,
I,
you're really playing devil's advocate. You're playing both sides and just
Sure.
seeing what actually feels right. Sometimes our brain makes a mountain out of a molehill, right? I often
Mm,
will tell clients to create a list. Like if you're feeling overwhelmed, write it out on a piece of paper and see what happens. Does it still feel as overwhelming, right? Because we get trapped in that emotional state and it's like this rabbit wheel of going over and over and over and over again. I guess I don't really know if rabbits go on
I don't think
wheels.
rabbits go on wheels, but that's okay.
But anyways, the fact of the matter was, you got the
The rabbit
analogy.
ate the hamster and now it's running on the hamster's
now the
wheel.
hamster's going.
But it's okay. Now it works. It's a change in
I
perspective.
like
Maybe
how
it's a
you
rabbit on
question
the
that.
wheels.
I didn't even catch that. I'm glad you brought that up. I didn't even catch that. So that was great. That was great.
Well, and I think for anxiety, it is one of those things where it's like, I always say finding comfort in discomfort. So learning how to be okay with being in your own thoughts and learning how to process and kind of compartmentalize them, like figuring out your own thoughts before you let them run away, if that makes sense. So I
Absolutely.
think in that sense of that, like, you know, you were talking about anxiety and like being okay being in your own thoughts in your mind and really that is what it is, right? Learning how to process those thoughts and be like, no, okay, that's just that old voice saying something that I've heard before, but this is the reality of that situation, and learning
Yeah,
how to separate those two.
absolutely. I think one of the biggest things, have you guys ever suffered with anxiety, by the way? Have you guys ever encountered anxiety?
I've
Like,
had like really, really crazy anxiety. Yeah.
okay, so you get the whole panic attack thing, right?
Oh yeah.
So totally relatable, obviously. And I think one of the biggest things, and maybe this was me. I haven't really actually talked about this too much, but was to run away from that feeling, was to do whatever you could to distract yourself, to get away from that feeling, right? And that's like, it seems like a normal reaction when fear is like encompassing you. You think, how do I get out of it? How do I run away? You know? And I used to do a lot of unhealthy things just to get myself to be distracted, to put on a mask of confidence, which I didn't have at all during those years, right? Um, and I think the biggest thing is like sitting in it is wrong, but it's entirely it's right. It's necessary, right? It's kind of like what you're mentioning. It's just when you are sitting in it, you're forcing yourself to be present and understand what is going on. So I actually made a YouTube video about this probably a couple years ago now, but I went to this really big marketing event or whatever. I forget what it was exactly, but big crowd, huge, hundreds of people in there, and I still had my anxiety issues. I went alone. I didn't go with anybody else. I went in and had this massive like anxiety feeling, like, oh my gosh, I don't want to talk to anyone. And my whole purpose of being there was to network, but I had to go outside and really just force myself to just think. Because if I'm in a crowded room, I'm going to be looking at people's clothing. I'm going to listen to the speaker. I'm going to be, focusing on the ceiling and all this stuff. And when I stepped outside to really think about it, I realized that I felt like I was an imposter in the area, because I was new to the entrepreneurial space. I was new to all that stuff, business owner and all that kind of stuff. And when I stopped and told myself, like, no, this is where you're supposed to be, because there's others that started exactly where you were right now,
Yes.
and now they're in these chairs, and this is who you're going to talk to, so you can become one of those people in the chairs that don't feel this anymore. So once I realized that, I'm okay, good. I am so glad that I walked away and cleared my head, because now again, the whole mindfulness has been a huge thing. Like, now that I'm
Mhm.
aware of that, I know that, okay, my purpose is to not feel like I need to um, prove myself of anything. My purpose here is shake hands and meet some people. That's it. I'm good at that. I could do that. So when I broke it down, it's like a whole different perspective on it, and sitting in the anxiety really helped me do that. I have to say, one of the biggest things. So
Well, I love that paradigm shift too, because regardless of the journey you're on, whether it's an entrepreneurial one, whether it's going to the gym for the first time, whether it's
mm,
going to Alcoholics Anonymous, whatever it is,
right,
when you are starting a journey, you almost always get that like imposter syndrome or like that anxiety around it. Like everybody that's there and experienced is going to be judging me. But the
right,
reality is a lot of that is just yourself and your
yep,
your own self-talk going on when you're there experiencing it. And I'm going to go with the gym because this is relative for me, is like
sure,
when you get someone brand new in a gym, they're worried that everybody's looking at them, but everybody's just there doing their own thing. And that's just something that they've imposed on themselves, a thought process they've imposed on themselves that everyone's going to be judging them. When the reality is everybody's just there doing their own thing. So same idea as you
sure,
going to this networking event. When you
right,
first show up, you're like, holy shit, everybody's going to be looking at me. They're all going to be judging me. And then when like you said, you take a step outside and then you go back in, you're like, no, actually, I'm just here to say hi to people. I'm just,
right,
I'm starting this journey,
yep,
and everybody who's here started this journey in the same way. They probably had the same thoughts, the same anxieties, the same doubt and worry that I'm having right now, but they've experienced it before, and now they're at
right.
this next stage, which is where I'm working towards. So it really shows that journey, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think here's what I would do to take it a step further, right? And this might not really apply because to your industry per se, but I think one of the things is, my job is to figure out why they're thinking the way they're thinking, right? Did something happen that made them feel like they're being watched at the gym? Did someone make fun of them in gym class? Did someone, you know what I mean? Like, all those fears, like when you get down to the root of it, well, no, I guess that thing really did happen. I think I'm just embarrassed of myself. Okay, I can work with that, no problem. But
Yeah.
if it's something else, like, some other thing, okay, well, do you think that person really was significant in your life to the point where it needs to be scarring your future and health? No, probably not. Great. So let's start here. Let's do this thing, right? And let's show them who's boss. Or let's show them that you're capable of lifting this weight, or pushing yourself to the next limit. You see it all the time with the fitness industry. There's so many. You guys know who Marie Forleo is, by chance?
No.
Marie Forleo is another big uh, person on YouTube. She's great, but she has this thing called a compare schlager. If you guys know what Goldschlager is, right? The alcohol. She says it's compare schlager because when you compare yourself, you almost feel like you're intoxicating yourself, and you're creating a hangover per se kind of thing, right? So when you're comparing yourself to other people, it's like that's not going to do anything but just stop you. And for like a
Yeah.
small percentage, it might actually like motivate you. But when you're constantly comparing yourself, it's really hard, especially in the fitness industry. Everyone's in competition with each other. And you're right. When you step into the gym and everyone's looking good and you look less good, right? Quote unquote. Um, then it's going to create that sense of like, oh, I shouldn't be here. The imposter again. When
Yep.
you identify it as a certain word, it's imposter. I feel nervous because everybody's looking at me lift this weight, um, and they're only 15 pounds while everyone else is doing 80. It's like, well, don't worry about what anyone else is doing. That's fine. They started there too. So,
That's the thing, right? Everybody started low on the totem pole.
I love that
Exactly.
you're talking about questioning your beliefs and questioning where they came from. So, when we have limiting beliefs, a lot of people just don't ever take the opportunity to stop and question, one, if they're valid and true, and two, where they might have come from. And a
When they
lot of,
started, yeah.
yeah, a lot of our limiting beliefs start when we're children, right? And so when you said, is that person, of great significance to you right now? Does their opinion overly matter, or will it impact your future? Like, if somebody criticizes you as a child, a youth, whatever, beginning to question if maybe some of your limiting beliefs that you have might have come from that state, and understanding that that limiting belief might have served you at that point, but
Hmm.
it might not be serving you anymore. And a lot
Right.
of the time, as children, we'll adopt a limiting belief for safety purposes. Like, if I don't ever try, then at least I'll be safe, I'll be
And
okay.
I can't fail.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly. Yeah, and that's entirely true. Is it's the reality is our minds are not created to, or I should say, majority of us are not created to uh, push ourselves out of comfort zone. It's to keep us safe and to keep us comfortable,
Keep
right?
us
So
alive.
anytime, exactly, keep us alive. It goes back to the prehistoric days of the cavemen, right? That's where the fear and anxiety came from. It's like when you're in actual danger, that's fear. When you're in anxiety, it's like there's something that's not really worth being scared of, right? Um, but with the comfort thing, it's like no one on earth has ever said, today I feel like getting uncomfortable. I really want to get uncomfortable, but the biggest life changes happen from discomfort, right? So learning how to step into that realm of discomfort and knowing that you're going to be comfortable eventually in this thing really helps you understand the process a little better. There's actually, do you mind if I share like a quick little case,
Yeah.
it's not case study, but a perfect example with this client I have, right? She is a screen time consultant for other parents and their children, right? She helps monitor their screen time without arguing with the kids. And she was, we're working on this course for her. So she built a course and she's working on this one-on-one program kind of thing. And I was like, she's like, well, how much do I charge for that? I've never done this before. I was like, how much do you want to charge? She's like, well, I was thinking maybe like 3 grand. I was like, really? I was thinking more like 10. And she was like, no, I can't charge that much. She's like, why? Why not? She's like, because like, who's going to pay that? I was like, people will pay that. Don't worry about that. I'll take care of that. But let's talk about you. Do you think that you're worth all this? She's been on, Good Day America. She's been on all these other networks. So she's a pretty, she knows what she's doing. And, uh, and sure enough, she's gotten, a lot more comfortable. She's telling it on sales calls because we were working together, trying to realize her worth, her value, what she does for other people, you know? Um, and now she's selling $10,000 packages. And I'm just so impressed with like the shift that happened in a very short amount of time. So it's like one of those things, whenever you tell your mind to believe, you're going to believe it, and that's not fair if you're trying to grow, if you're trying to get out of that. You just need to figure out why. Where's it coming from? Like you mentioned, is childhood. Is there something in your childhood that's teaching you that you're not worthy, you're not capable, you can't do this, or there's people out there saying you can't do it. Who are you gonna listen to? Other people or yourself, right? It's got to
So
be
it's
you.
playing, you got to play both sides of what's hard, right? It's hard to be stuck and to stay stuck in this, I'm going to call it safe place where, you know what, I feel safe when I feel anxious, or I feel safe when I feel fear, because I'm used to that feeling.
'Cause I felt it
I'm
before.
I've felt it before. I'm used to playing small. That might be a place that you are living, but that's also a hard place to be, because you are always questioning yourself, you're always comparing yourself, you're always judging yourself in order to not grow. Like,
Right.
if I compare myself to this person, then I'm less than them, that's okay, and I won't grow. But it's also hard on the other side to begin to take that action and to step into, questioning your beliefs and, growing as a person. And so understanding that it doesn't matter which side you're on, either side is going to be hard. So you
Right.
just have to pick your hard. You have to pick, do I want to turn into a better version of myself? Do I want to keep growing, or do I want to live with dis-ease in my body? Do I want to live always playing small and always coming up to what I feel are other people's expectations. So other people expect me to be this way.
Yeah, pick your heart. I love that. That's there's how to think for you. Is pick your heart. Which route do you want to be? Continuing to be in the spot you're in, or working towards a better future? You choose. You
Yeah.
know, I love that. That's really simplified the way this whole conversation is. Pick your heart. I love that. Yeah.
Right. Well, it's like playing devil's advocate on both sides. It's understanding that it doesn't matter which direction you go. It
Sure.
doesn't matter which thought you're having. There's still another side to that coin. And
Mm.
either side, it's going to be difficult, but you get to choose that.
Both can be valid and true.
Right.
True. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, not most of the time, I guess depending on the thought process, right? Depending on where it started from, it can be true. Yeah. Is it going to be hard? Absolutely. Is it going to be worth it? Absolutely. You
Yeah.
know, are you safer staying in this spot? Absolutely. But is that what you want? What do you
But
what do
what
you
about
want?
the possibilities outside of it, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I mean, so when you guys started your business, there was a significant amount of risk involved with that, right? So
100%.
what was the biggest let me ask you guys a question. I'm very curious now. What was the most attractive feature of owning your own business or
The
benefit,
most
I should say?
attractive feature for me was impact, the ability to impact thousands and thousands of lives, and then also the ability to have freedom to do it my way, in the sense of like, I don't have to be bound by another organization's policies, procedures, whatever, and I can continue to help my clients in the way that I feel is best versus having to stick within some guidelines.
Mhm.
And I can share my knowledge and information with way more people.
Yeah, and it's similar for myself too. Like being able to impact lives directly. I was a firefighter previous to this, so I got to impact lives in one way.
Yep.
This is a more personalized approach to that, though, right? So it's not just showing up on somebody's worst day. This
Hmm.
is showing up for them every day, right? So
Right.
this to me means that we get to impact that many more lives. So that's why I was super excited to get into this.
And same
Yeah.
thing for yourself. When you look at like that perspective shift to go self-employed versus working for someone, what was your reasoning behind that?
It's a lot of similarities, to be honest. It was taking back the control I felt I never had. You
Yeah.
know, I again, the anxiety really did a number of things on me. You know, I stayed at the same job for 8, 10 years. I don't remember how long it's been now because it's insignificant. It doesn't matter anymore. It was such a hard time in my life that it was something that I knew I was capable of achieving more, but was stuck believing that I couldn't at the same
Hmm.
time. It was very confusing. It was very difficult. So, um, I started to just dabble with online business stuff and I fell in love with that. And then I just realized that the more I learned, the more I can help other people at the same time.
That's
And
awesome.
this was simultaneously while I was going to therapist, two different therapists at the same time. So, constantly just putting myself in positions where I was like teaching myself to go against everything that I taught myself, right? Unlearning everything I learned in in the in the midst of all the anxiety. So being able to teach that and put that forward, I really wanted to help other people believe in themselves too. That was the whole reason I got into this mindset game, and then it just happens to like correlate a lot in the space that I'm in with business. So I started learning marketing, started learning sales, started learning other stuff, just different strategies that no one really thinks about, um, and it's been so rewarding, not just for myself, but to the clients also, the community, and doing stuff like this. I love speaking with people. So it opened up my freedom to be able to do whatever I wanted as well,
I
and
love
to
that.
give back and let people feel inspired again, take back the control. So my company is called Entrepreneur With, but it doesn't mean entrepreneur in a business standpoint. It means be the creator of your own world. One of my best friends from years ago and current, she used to teach me all the time, like whenever I had really bad anxiety, she's like, remember, you are in charge. You are the creator of your own world. How do you want to live? So entrepreneur with is left somewhat ambiguous, but it's on purpose. It's intentional. What do you want your life to be? You tell me,
Hmm.
and I'll help you get there. Right? Same thing with you. You tell your clients, what's your ideal situation? How do you want to look? How do you want to feel? What do you want
Yeah.
to eat? This is your ideal situation. This is the world you want to create. This is the lifestyle you want to create. Let us help you do that. Right? Same fields, just as rewarding. Different fields though. But
If you're ready to make a change in your life, step into the best version of you, check out our Iron Self Transformation Program. Find more info on our website, www.ironbodycoach.com.
I love that for both of us. It sounds like once we had that shift, again, that paradigm shift into that growth mindset, it
Yeah.
really went from being that fixed mindset of, well, this is how my life is going to be. It's already kind of
Right.
predetermined into what do I want my life to be and how am I going to achieve that, right? And then really getting into that growth pattern where it's like, no, I'm not playing small anymore. This is how I can impact this entire world, and then running with that.
For me,
Yeah,
it
absolutely.
was a little bit of a different scenario in the sense of like I was working a government job. It was, a cush job. We'll say I knew what my life was going to look like. I could work this job Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 for the rest of my life. I'll retire at 55 with a full pension. Everybody from the outside looking in was like, wow, that's pretty amazing. You got benefits, you got pensions, you got all this stuff. And I was like, I'm trapped. What's going on? And I was like looking at all the people around me and I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, these guys are all like, oh, I've only got 10 years till retirement, whatever. But a lot of people were suffering from
They,
this.
they were unhappy and
Yes.
counting down to their
They're
retirement.
Exactly.
counting down. And I was like,
Exactly.
I'm
We
not
should be excited about what we
Yeah.
spend 80% of our lives doing.
I'm not
Right.
I'm not doing this. I'm not going to live in this trap of this mindset of this is how I'm supposed to live. I don't want to be like you're supposed to get married and then have children and work this 9 to 5 and then, let's shift that perspective and where does happiness live and reside? And that was terrifying. To quit a job that
Yeah.
you are guaranteed an income at and make the leap into entrepreneurship and go, you know what? And this is where I play that devil's advocate. What is the worst thing that could happen? So if
Yeah.
I take this leap and I fail miserably, what is the worst thing that's going to happen?
At the
Right.
time, I was still working full time, so she could just go back to a regular job.
No, but
Right.
also like it was like, okay, well, I could get a job at a grocery store or, at McDonald's or
Worst
whatever.
case scenario, you wind up on welfare, we lose the house, and we still have each other.
That's real. And really, at the end of the day, is that worst case?
Exactly. I'm so glad you brought that up because I just led a class on the fear of failure, right? And I got everyone to just rapid fire. There might have been like 30 people or so on that call. And I had like a whole thing. I keep looking at the whiteboard because this is like where I draw things out. So but I had like, okay, worry list. And I just had everybody start shouting out the things they're worried about, not being able to not being able to pay their bills, not being able to whatever it was, right? And then at the end of that, I was like, great. Now what's the worst case scenario out of that? Let's go even deeper with that. What's the worst case scenario with that? What happens? What do you mean? And I was like, well, let's think about that. Let's really think about that. What happens if you don't have money to pay the bills? They're not going to get paid. Okay. Then what happens? Then your service gets shut off. Okay. Then what happens? Then we got to figure out what's next. I'm like, okay, that's fine. But let's think about this. Did you die?
Yeah.
I hate to
Did
go
you die?
extreme, but did you die? People are figuring this out all day long. You're not going to die, right? You might be in some trouble with some money, sure, but go get a job. Go get a job or you figure it out. When your back's up against the wall, you figure it out. That sounds very extreme, and I realize that, but it really puts it in perspective too. Like, okay, that's not the worst case scenario to not be able to pay your phone bill. Not the worst thing. People live without running water all over the world. You're not going to die. A jug of water costs $1 here. I don't know how much it costs over there, but you can get a jug of water for $1. You're going to be fine, until you figure it out, and you will figure it out because there's always a way. Here's one of the things my therapist taught me actually is he's like, one of the things that really helps me through tough times is telling myself, there hasn't been a problem or a troubled period in my life that I wasn't able to figure out.
Yeah.
And it's true. If you really think about that, what's the biggest thing you've ever had to deal with? For me, it might have been, losing my best friend over 10 years ago. And thinking about that, I'm like, okay, I was able to figure that out. I was able to get past that. I'm still alive. So I figured it out somehow, right? Same thing when you're figuring out the things that are scaring you deep down and you stare at them. You say, this is what's going to happen. It either motivates you to go kick some ass, right? Or it's going to be like, okay, maybe I should just stick with getting a job. Because if you're not okay with the things that could potentially happen, then get a job and all is good again. No big deal, right? Anyway, I know I can talk about that for hours, but It's true. When you just list things out, it's a simple exercise. You stare at it and you're like, okay, that's not that bad. I can always get a job. I can always get a job. There's always somebody that's hiring, you know.
Well, where
But
there's a will, there's a way. Life is always happening for you, not to you. And when you take that perspective shift and go, okay, this is happening for my highest good. What is it that I'm supposed to learn in this moment? Because I see that all of these obstacles that come at us are learning opportunities, and they're just simply obstacles that, like you said, you've always been able to overcome. You've always come out the other side in some way, shape, or form. So what am I to learn from this obstacle? Maybe it's that I need to start diversifying. Maybe it's that I need to practice some self-love, some personal growth, and starting to really question. And I think that's our entire talk today has really been about questioning your thoughts,
mhm,
questioning your perspective,
yeah,
and really beginning to question everything that's going on. And when you begin to question, you'll notice that things come up. One of the things that I'll do for myself and often with clients, now I'm not a big journaler. I always say, like, I journal when the spirit moves me. And there's certain times when it's the same thing as running, right? I
Yeah.
run when the spirit moves me too.
Once a year.
But when I feel motivated to journal, I don't journal, and it's not like today in my life, this is what happened. It's I go in with a question. So, why am I feeling anxious right now? Because like the whole world is imploding, blah 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 blah. Okay, why is this significant to me? Where in my body am I noticing it? Can I see this in a different way? What is the control factor that
Yeah.
I actually have around this?
That's where I like where you start to pull in the control factor. Do I actually have any control around this situation, or am I worrying about
right.
something I have no control over?
That is
And being
key.
very honest with yourself in that.
That is key. Can I look at this differently? Right?
Yeah.
When you say question everything, and that's exactly the way I say it to myself too. But some people will take that out of context to mean like question everything, like what is God? That God's not real. Like, is this real? You know what I mean? But I'm talking internally. Question everything. Like question everything that you're thinking, everything that you're eating. Is this good for me? And do I know for a fact this is good for me? Right? I took an allergy test. Oh my God, I was eating everything that was bad for my allergies. Almonds, peanuts, soy milk, like yogurt. I was eating all the stuff I thought was good for protein, good for a little snack. No, my body hated it. And I didn't question that because I just didn't think that that would be an issue. I thought it was just seasonal. Anyway, I digress. But, when you question everything, it really allows you to get clarity on things that you feel that you may not have ultimate clarity on. Right. And that's really where confidence comes from. It's just from a level of competence, right? Is being able to know for a fact that this is right or I can do this because I did my research. I watched some YouTube videos. Like I mentioned to you guys, like on our previous call, I was like, yeah, I love working out. I love going to the gym, but I noticed that I'm not always hitting the right muscles during some of the workouts. I think that's a pretty common problem in the gym. You probably see, right? It's why what's the percentage rate of people that don't succeed in the gym? It's pretty high. Right.
Too high.
Yeah, it's really high because there's not a level of competency in that. I don't understand how to hit certain muscles. I keep wanting this in my chest because the upper chest was the hardest part for me to figure out, you know. But when you figure it out, the mind muscle connection, that just shows you how strong the mind is. When you realize it and you can feel it, you can squeeze it, right? It's a game changer. Then you start seeing results because you took the time to really build that connection. Same thing when it comes to your well-being and lifestyle. You have to be mindful of it, right? Otherwise, you're going to be questioning forever with the wrong questions. So, yeah, I love that
When
you
you
brought
begin
that
to
up.
question when you begin to question those thoughts and those situations that you're kind of having, you might actually surprise yourself with the answers that you come up with. And that's why, putting pen to paper or spending that time in those thoughts and beginning to question them and giving yourself those answers, you might actually be surprised, like, wow, I didn't realize that. So I'll give you my example. One of the things that I was struggling with was creating friendships and why I had such trepidation around friends. And what I realized was it was a lot of the messaging that I was giving people because I was afraid to let people in because I've had people betray me in the past where instead I would create a friendship, but we're going to keep you at arm's length. And I didn't realize that it was my own thought around that until I started questioning it, going, where did this thought come from? Why does this keep showing up in this way? Like, it's a commonality. It keeps showing up the same way. So then is it really other people or is it me? And realizing, oh, that came from me and a situation that I had take place. Okay, so now I realize that one situation can't determine my entire friendships for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So then I can start making that paradigm shift and I can start taking back that power around that.
Well, and it's bringing
Right.
it back to is this thought or feeling valid and true? And then kind of building the table out of it, right? We always use the table analogy where there's the 4 legs. And if
Right.
you have 4 reasons why it's valid and true, good chance it is valid and true unless you can knock those legs out super easy.
Yeah. Yeah. If you really think about that, because I love that you brought that up. It's a past that's affecting your present, right? Our minds are like a huge like stack of like memory data behind
The
it,
old
right? So
Rolodex.
yeah, we can just pull it out whenever we want, just because we saw the color red. Well, red's probably a bad example. That's anger. So let's talk about something else. If it's like cloudy and rainy outside, right? Yeah. Now I'm pissed. No, I'm just kidding. When you see like dark, cloudy rain clouds, right? That might trigger you to think something that happened when you were a child. Maybe you got in a bad car accident when it was raining, right? That's in your memory bank where that just automatically triggers them without you even being aware of it, And if you are able to search for that memory, it's in there somewhere. If you pull it out and just look at it and say, look, the rain and the clouds did not cause this. It did not cause this, and try to and just apply that to whatever you're dealing with right now. Like if it's getting too close with friends, think about it as this is not the same person. I'm not the same person. I'm a lot stronger. I'm a lot smarter. This person's okay. I'm gonna just play it safe and maybe keep them at arm's length until I feel that we have a mutual understanding where we can trust each other, you know, and then take it one day at a time after that, But if you constantly like imagine if you do that to your husband, right? Imagine that's a you're like, I don't I don't know you yet. I don't really know you exactly. Then this relationship wouldn't have been able to develop and you guys wouldn't have beautiful children. Right. So and a blossoming business on top of that. So it's a great foundation you guys set for yourselves. And I think the key with that is really just understanding where everything comes from. There's traumas. This is what therapy is for. This is what psychologists are for, to tap into your memory bank and figure out where is the part that's like the issue that's triggering other things in your present. Identifying that, game changer. You're gonna be good after that. Some maybe minor hiccups, but at least you understand why.
Well, and like you had already said at the beginning of the conversation, you said a lot of your thought processes stem from relationships and those relationships with yourself and others. And when I think of relationships, I think of having that level of trust. So you mentioned communication at the beginning, but I think it comes back to a large level of trust. And we've talked about it on a societal standpoint before, just in our own conversations, where before the pandemic, you were having trusting relationships with people. Like, I could come and I would sit down with you and I know I'm going to trust you until you show me that you're untrustworthy.
Sure.
And I feel like now that we're progressing after the pandemic, I think it's a little bit of a different perspective. Now I'm not sure if I can trust you until you show your trustworthiness. And I think that shift in relationships is going to drastically impact a lot of people's thought processes going forward. So my big thing and the mission that I want to really help people with right now is creating that trusting relationship with yourself. So then, rather than questioning other people's level of trust, when you have that level of trust with yourself and that positive relationship with yourself, you can begin to trust others. But when you're constantly showing up in your own life and you say, I'm going to eat clean, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to practice gratitude, I'm going to whatever, insert. If you're not doing that and you're failing to do that, then you're actually failing to follow through in your own relationship with yourself. And that internal dialogue becomes your communication with yourself of, I'm not doing this, I'm not good enough, whatever that is. And that's going to repeat patterns in our lives. So when it comes to building this growth mindset for long-term development, it starts with a relationship with yourself. It starts with a trusting relationship. And I'm not necessarily saying a loving relationship, because that comes through time. Like you said, confidence comes with repetition. It's the same thing with creating a loving relationships. It comes with repetition. You don't just fall in love most of the time at first sight. It comes with creating that relationship through time and the experiences that you have. And so knowing that if you start with yourself from a place of trust, that, and noticing, hey, I'm feeling anxious today, that's okay, this is a trusting thing, I'm having that internal dialogue with myself. Over time, that creating that trusting relationship will lead to long-term self-love and more of a positive perspective in your life.
Yeah, and it's absolutely true. It's funny you brought that up because again, not to keep referencing Mel Robbins with this, but she says the same thing when it comes to like, promising yourself that you're going to do something shows, and you actually do it, shows to yourself that you can trust yourself. If I set my alarm at 5 in the morning because I'm going to go for a run, we're not runners. I'm not a runner either, but but if I told myself I was going to do it and I do it, it shows that I can count on myself. So it could be as simple as waking up every day and making your bed right when you wake up. It could be as simple as that. Just trusting yourself that you're going to show up and that you can count on yourself entirely. No one really talks about it. Because we're so busy managing other relationships and the household and all this stuff, right? We don't think much about really taking care of the relationship that we have with ourselves. That's where everything starts, and that's where it should start, right? Same thing. If you walk into, let's just say, a romantic relationship, and you have massive insecurities, how do you think that relationship's going to go down? Not very
You
well.
go down all right.
It goes down exactly. But when you take that time and you allow yourself to figure out, hey, I am a catch. I am great. I have this going for me. I feel really good with myself. I love life. I'm happy. And then you get in a relationship with someone that is the exact same place. What happens then, right? Blossoms. Like, look at you guys. Smiles this entire time. I love it. So, um, that starts within you. No one's going to do that for you but you, you know? So you have to carry yourself. That's for sure. But
Well, and that comes back to taking care of your mind, right? Just
right.
like we've been talking about having, when you're noticing that anxiety, one of the biggest things is beginning to, how can I help myself feel better? And knowing that those feelings sometimes are, like you said, that busyness, it's to create busyness so that I don't have to look inside.
Yeah,
And
It's
so
distractions.
it's
Yeah.
it's a distraction,
sure.
and we live in this busy society where we're told to be busy or whatever. When so taking that time to stop and do some self-reflection, whatever that means, whether that's sitting in your thoughts, whether that's meditating or journaling or going for a walk and grounding yourself outdoors, but bringing yourself back into that present moment
Mhm.
where anxiety and all of this fear doesn't really reside, right? Our brain lives in a parallel reality where if you remember a memory, it will bring you right back to that feeling that you had in that moment because it doesn't know the difference between that memory happening in the past and now or in the future. So
Mm.
if you begin to ground yourself back into the present moment,
Right.
that's where your power exists because
Yeah.
you reside in the present moment and fear and anxiety don't.
Right. Exactly. And man, the mind is so fun to get to know, isn't it? It's like, it's just so fascinating because, you know, relating to what you said, the mind doesn't know the difference, between what happened in the past, what happens in the present and the future. But if you tell it, you give it a reason behind whatever you're thinking, okay, now it can make some sense of it, especially with anxiety, right? I used to have all this anxiety. Oh, okay, you know what? Um, I started to think about other things that would excite me. Actually, funny story. I actually got back in my 9 to 5 job a handful of years back. I got a pretty significant raise, and I started feeling like anxiety. I started feeling anxious, and I was like, "Why do I feel anxiety? This is great. This is great news." I started getting confused between what anxiety and excitement feels like.
Yeah.
Because
Very
it's
similar.
the exact same feeling. Your body gets really like, oh my God, you can't sit still and your heart's pounding. And, it's like, it's interesting to think about that. And then when you give it a reason, no, this is not, hey, calm down. It's not anxiety. Because that excitement could have turned into a panic attack, which is ridiculous,
Yep.
but, it's like, who gets a panic attack after getting a raise? People that don't understand their minds, that's what it is. But when you think about it, the same thing happens when you watch scary movies. You get so in the zone and you think it's real. Your mind thinks it's real, and it cannot differentiate. It's the exact same thing. And you get scared because something pops out of you or whatever. Your mind thinks it's real. So when you give it validation to anything that you tell it, that can be a dangerous but a very fulfilling and a rewarding practice to have when you start being mindful of things you're putting into your mind. So I'm sure you guys have encountered moments where you're like, I don't really feel like doing a whole lot of work today, right? I truly believe that there's no such thing as self-motivated people. I really, really do not believe that, because we're not born that way. There's going to be moments where we're like, oh, you know what? I don't feel like doing anything, you know? So to get that motivation up for me, just a quick little kind of side note to that is I have to keep myself in front of things that I am working towards. If I don't feel like going to the gym, I start watching new workouts on YouTube or on Instagram or wherever, right? And I start getting my mind set on something exciting. Oh, I've never tried this before. This looks fun. I'm gonna go do that, and then I'm back in the game. I feel really good. This exercise was fantastic. I loved it. Hiring a new coach, working with you guys, putting yourself in front of people that are gonna say, hey, this is what you gotta do. This is how you're gonna get results. I promise. If you just
Yeah.
do the work, that's it.
It all comes back to action.
Well, it comes back to
Exactly.
nourishment, what you're nourishing yourself with. When we
Right.
talk nourishment, so many people immediately, the mind goes to what you're feeding yourself, but it's
Exactly.
not just what you're eating, it's what you're consuming in all
Yeah.
aspects of your life. So again,
Yeah.
what is in front of your eyes? What are you seeing on YouTube? What are you seeing on your social media? This is
Right.
what you're nourishing your soul with, yourself with. So being very clear and honest with yourself and making sure that that is uplifting and that that is focused towards your goals, and that we're always looking to bring ourselves up, right? Bring the
Yeah.
vibration up instead of kind of bringing
Suffocating
it
it.
down. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Suffocating,
Smothering it.
suppressing it. Yeah. All the you insert negative word, just squashing it, right? Yeah, you have to, because that's no one ever. I mean, maybe it's circumstantial, right? Situational, maybe, but I doubt that the majority of successful people wake up thinking, "Ah, yes, I can't wait to get this day started, and today's gonna be great." And no, that's not how it works. You get bad sleep. You have a bad dream. You start the day later than you wanted to. There's all these things that can be thrown at you, right? But being ahead of it is understanding that things are still going to be possible no matter what obstacles come around, right?
Mhm.
Just because you weren't able to get through, I hate to-do lists, but just because you weren't able to do the full 10 things on your to-do list doesn't mean today is a wash. It doesn't mean that it was a waste, right?
Yep.
If you got through one, there's a great book by Gary Keller called The One Thing. Have you guys heard of it?
Oh
Great
yeah.
book. Yep.
The One Thing, great book. So that really changed the way that I do things, because will not add a to-do list. Will not do
Yeah.
it anymore. And I get more done. If I get 1% done every single day, that's 7% each week. That's 14%, 21%, 28% each month. If I
Yeah.
keep doing that, what do you think is going to happen? Right? Your results are going to continuously go, 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 go. That comes with anything that you do. Fitness, business, and art projects, whatever it is. It's just a lot of different ways of looking at progress and being productive.
Mhm.
Which is one of the biggest things I think most people struggle with is, what should I be doing? Um, Same thing with your health. What should I be doing? I don't understand what I should be doing. You know, your body will tell you. Like I said, I had a little bit of acid reflux today. I'm like, okay, clearly I'm doing something wrong yesterday that's telling my body, hey, I hate this. So let's not do that anymore. Got it? Got it. I'm listening. So
That's awesome.
yeah, yeah,
Dedication, consistency, and body knowledge are three things that are huge for me in my life. Paying attention to the messaging that my body's giving and staying dedicated and consistent means that even on the days where I don't feel like doing something, I'm dedicated to my craft, I'm dedicated to my greater purpose, whatever that piece is that I've dedicated myself to, and showing up for myself so that I can create that loving, trusting relationship with myself, that I can do it. That self doubt creeps in. It's
Right.
without a doubt going to happen. You're going to have aspects where you're questioning yourself of, can I actually do this? And that belief in self becomes questioning. But when you are taking action each and every single day towards that greater purpose, towards that greater goal, it doesn't matter whether it's a sprint or a marathon. You're going to get there at some point, but you have to keep taking that aligned action, that action that is aligned with your greater purpose and your greater goals. And that is like really sums up a lot of what we've already talked about today with how to think. Is like, am I taking aligned action? Am I having aligned thoughts? And if I'm not, then I need to begin to question them and question maybe where they're coming from, creating that relationship with myself and sitting in those moments of anxiety, worry, depression, and really honoring them, because when we create that busyness, it creates dis-ease in our body and it starts to show up in other ways, not just the ways we think that it shows up with roadblocks in our life. So understanding that everything has a greater reaction and that we need to play both sides of the coin. It's going to be hard on either end, but when we start to realize we get to that opportunity to make the choice and to choose which level of hard we want, that's where our power resides. And that's where we can understand that no matter what choice we make in our lives, it needs to be aligned for us and our greater purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a balance to everything. There's I forgot the philosophy behind that. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it's like the whole balance. There's not one thing that doesn't have its polar opposite, right?
Mhm.
It's the yin
Um,
and that yang.
Pretty much, yeah, exactly. I forgot what the exact terminology is for that philosophy, but it's the same thing. It's like everything has an opposite. A great way of looking at that is like the two sides of the coin thing, right? Is there's here and there's here. There's always some type of middle ground for that too. You don't have to always be happy, but you don't always have to always be sad either. There's a level between that. Feel accordingly. You don't always have to be doing something productive with your business, but you also don't want to not do anything at all. Because if you do everything too much, you're going to burn out. If you never do things, you're not going to get anywhere. But nice, healthy balance. Now you're starting to roll into the momentum. Same thing with working out. I doubt there's any workout program that says, hey, you need to go for 6 months straight, like no days off, no rest days, no
No
repeats.
results.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Like now you're just gonna have this like poor person that's just constantly in pain from like healing. There's no rest. Their body's not gonna rest. And um, you can get dramatic results in a shorter amount of time. If that is that fair to say? Uh,
Yeah.
by working hard 4 days a week rather than grinding for
Working
7.
smart. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So there's
I love it.
definitely a balance, definitely a plan. If you don't have a plan, then you're already feeling behind, So gotta keep
Right.
it.
It's if you aim for nothing, you'll hit it every single time.
Yep.
And so having a greater purpose, a greater thing that you're striving for is going to help us with that longevity. It's going to help us with that ability to really create the life that we want.
Mm,
And I think that at the end of the day, that's really what we're after. I mean, maybe it's our generation where we feel that we have that power to start to create that life. I mean, if I look at my grandmother's or my mother's generation, they were more of the understanding of this is the career, this is the job I have for the rest of my life, and I'm meant to contribute and parent and whatever, and this is the way my life plays out. But I feel like in this day and age, we have more of that freedom in the sense of you can create or cultivate whatever it is that you want in your life, and that it comes back to 100% of your power, your
mm,
thought processes, your behaviors, your actions, and how you show up in your own life.
right. Yeah, you're the creator of your own world. You design it. You make it. And that's funny because I have a big thing against the school process, right? I was always, since high school, I was always like, yeah, I don't even need college. I'm not going to college. It's fine. Because at the time, I really wanted to go to this music college, this music school. And it wasn't like it was like a trade school where you just go and learn the thing and then you're done, right? You don't have to go take math. You don't have to go take English or whatever, which I loved. I just wanted to learn the thing. Why do I have to learn math and English just to go to school for? So by being able to decide what you want in a life, it comes almost against you because we're not really taught that in school how to do that. They tell you, yes, you can, but no one really teaches us how, you
Mhm.
know? Now, like the online education space is like booming because everyone started catching on to that fact that you can't go to school for this. We're going to teach you because this is what experience has taught us. You want to learn business from a professor, go and learn it, but it's probably a 20-year outdated book. That's fine. Go learn it. But if you're going to learn with me, you're going to learn the thing I did yesterday. Which one sounds more attractive? That's why schools are starting to tank, and that's why the online education system is going up, because we want to learn the thing. Plus, we want instant gratification. We want to learn things and be rewarded for it now, not in 6 years to get our bachelor's or whatever it is, right?
Right.
So I think that's really, really key, is being able to create the world that you want, the lifestyle that you want, but knowing how to do that. That's really hard. If someone says, I really want financial freedom, so I'm going to go to school, I would say, you're dumb. Don't go to school. It's not going to give you, you're going to be more in debt, and then you're going to hate the job that you get, because like there's a high percentage rate of people that go to school and never do anything with that degree ever. Now they're in the debt, 60 grand, 100 grand, whatever it is. And now they're trying to figure it out. Now they're working, at a job that has nothing to do with the territory that they went to school for. It's really hard to make it without direction, without guidance, without mentors. I've had several mentors in my life that's really helped me, push myself in the direction that I wanted to go. I start off every call with saying, this is what I want. This is the direction I want to go in. Tell me if that's an idiotic dream or not. They'll say, no, absolutely not. This is why. I've done it and I'm doing it, So same thing with your guys's, with your guys' clients, with when it comes to like fitness and stuff, like it starts with a plan. You could do things wrong for so long and get fed up trying to do it because no results are coming because someone told you to join the keto diet for some reason, right? Just kidding. Because then the trends will tell you what to do, and that's sometimes the worst advice, right? Is the trends. So 100 push-ups a day, will that get you some results? Sure, you'll probably get a little bit stronger, but is that going to get you six-pack abs? Probably not, right? Is that fair to say?
There,
So
there is not one way to slice an orange. There is
exactly,
a billion different ways to slice that orange, and it's up to you to decide on how you want to slice it.
What's going to serve you the best?
And I
yeah,
think having somebody in your corner to give you the know-how, to give you the little bit of life experience that they have had in relation to what your goal is so crucial. I think that a lot of people are really hesitant to hire a coach, to hire a mentor, to hire somebody that might be on their team, but sometimes we don't have that team that's in our life on a regular basis. So having somebody in your corner to remind you that you are on the right path, that you're going in the right direction, and that you are taking aligned action and giving you that other side of that perspective is very, very helpful. And I don't think that you can underestimate the value of that in regards to reaching your goal. Sure, you can do it on your own, but it might take 1, 2, 3, 4 years to get to your goal.
yeah,
Or you could start doing it today and with a coach or a mentor and realize, oh my gosh, I can actually hit my goal in 3 to 6 months.
Yeah.
Wow, if I can, what does that mean? If I can cut that time down and reach my goal in 3 to 6 months versus 4 years,
right,
that's huge.
The big one for me, and I'll just say this before we finish today, but the big one for me that I always notice in that regard is people that, like, we deal with a lot of people who've suffered with back pain, and they've been suffering for years and years and years, and then we train them for, that 3 to 6 months, and all of a sudden they don't have to go to a chiropractor, they don't have to get
right,
massaged anymore. It's like all of these issues have been, we teach them how to fix them, and it's not something that we like, it's not a proprietary thing. It's like, no, we're going to teach you which muscles you need to work, how to stretch them, and how to recover properly. And look, now you don't have to do all of this extra. So having
right.
somebody who's been through it that can show you the way
Mhm.
can just expedite your process that much faster, which I think is what you're speaking to there.
100%.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a great kind of circling back to the fixed mindset and growth mindset, right? Is
Yeah.
Are we looking for a temporary fix, a little bit of a band-aid? Let's go to the chiropractor once a month. Instant relief for the next 2 days. Then it starts flaring up again for the next 28 days. Then you go again. Then you go again. But if you have a growth mindset, it's like, I mean, it's not as simple as as believing in yourself and all that kind of stuff. This applies to everything, really. When you think about a growth mindset, you're like, how do I fix this once and for all?
Mm-hmm.
You know, let's go back to the foundations. Am I overweight? Is the excess weight causing me to hunch forward? Is it causing me to sleep wrong? Am I or whenever. There's a number of reasons why your back hurts, right? But if you're not treating the root cause of it, then you're never
Mhm.
going to feel good about it for long, So that's a great analogy too. Or a great analogy. That's a great example, because that's such a common thing that you guys see in your profession, I'm sure, is backache, right? So, um, especially when they're doing the exercises wrong. So back to what you said, right? Is the guidance, the mentorship behind that. That can look like a lot of different things. Whenever they need the most support in, it's probably what they're going to be asking the most questions on. When you encourage people to ask questions, then they're going to get the answer they need to get them to keep moving forward that 1% each day. And that's really, really important. You can't do it any other way. You can, but it'll take 2, 3, 4 times as long. I think people are not going to have that attention span to want to go as that hard for 4 times as long than other than working with you guys and really just getting straight down to it. So super big advocate for the mentorship and guidance. So I'm glad you guys brought that up.
Well, it's a band-aid solution, right?
Right.
Do I want to fix the wound with a band-aid, or do I want to fix it for that long-term
Mm.
success and growth out of that? And so when we start to come at it, where we live in a day and age of information, you can find any information you want online. Sure, you can find all the information to help deal with back pain or whatever it is that your ailment might be, but are you going to
Implement an action.
implement
Right.
it? Do you have the dedication? Do you have the consistency? Do you have maybe a coach that has worked with this before and knows what does and doesn't work, versus the trial and error that you're going to go through on
Mm.
your regular everyday, um I guess,
Journey.
journey.
Life.
Right.
Because like we already said, there's not one way to slice an orange. And so finding a coach or a mentor that aligns with you, that resonates with you, that has a similar outlook to you, but also can push you a little bit outside of that comfort zone to keep you accountable, keep you
Right.
going, and keep that growth mindset in check.
Right. Yeah, I think it's really important because, again, you're pushing outside of the boundaries of comfort, but you want to also know that, hey, if I'm getting uncomfortable, I want to know that I'm doing it the right way and I'm heading in the right direction. That's always the uncertainty. There's where anxiety comes in, uncertainty, right? So it's like I can go to the gym 5 days a week, no problem. But if I'm not guaranteed to get results, I'm not going to do it. It's the same thing. Like the instant gratification. I guarantee if you go to the gym consistently, you eat pretty decently for 2 weeks, you're going to already see some type of results, right? You're not going to be massive transformation, but you're going to see and feel good once you start getting in the rhythm of things. So um, you're absolutely right. Totally agree with that.
Now,
Yeah.
Sam, I know that you offer coaching services both in mindset and in business growth. Where would somebody reach you if they wanted more information about the services that you offer?
Sure. You can go to entrepreneurwith.com. There's a nice little like video there that you guys can check out, a little bit of what I do on that page as well. Then we can schedule a call if you'd like. We can really talk about where you need the most support in, and really just dive into that and straightforward. It's very customizable. I don't have this one cookie cutter type of process that I go through because everyone's unique, everyone's different, right? There's not, like you mentioned, there's more than one way to slice an orange. So um, being able to do that is been a lot more rewarding for both me and for them. It keeps me on my toes and it keeps them to be able to progress. And so if you go to entrepreneurwith.com, you can find that there. And then you can also just hit me up on Instagram. It's I am _ Sam Becker, or just Facebook, Sam Becker. You can find me there and just shoot me a message. We can connect.
Perfect.
I absolutely love it. I love that nothing is customized, or everything is customizable. Nothing is a cookie cutter, is what I was trying to
That's
say.
the same premise we go on.
I
We don't
love it.
believe in
Yeah.
cookie cutter solutions, because you are a unique individual and you deserve to have a unique experience and a unique program meant for you. So I
Exactly.
love that. Thank you so much for sharing your
We'll
knowledge
link
and
all your
wisdom.
information in the show notes as well.
I
Yes.
appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much for having me on. It's been a great conversation with you guys, and I'm happy to connect with you guys again too. So thank you so much for having me on. This was a blast.
If you loved today's episode and found value in the information that Sam and us provided, you can reach out to Sam at entrepreneurwith.com or find him on social media at entrepreneurwith or under at Sam Becker. Have an amazing rest of your day.